about Android 14. Can everyone hear me clear if I just go back a little bit? Okay, great. It's just in my face and it's weird. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about Android 14, and here's a list of socials you can find me on because I didn't bother to create my own link tree. Let's start with this. So Android 14's timeline is something like this. In March, they came out with the developer preview 2. That's about the time when they announced or made some of the APIs I'm going to talk about more stable and more accessible. And that's when I started exploring what's happening in Android 14. It's not as big as an update you would think, but it's still interesting. And probably towards July, they'll have a final release. I really hope they do another Android 13 and release it early than planned. But let's see how it goes. Just a disclaimer, this is a non-exhaustive list. There are more features, but I just picked the 6 I could actually explore in my free time and quickly document them. This is all based on Android 14 Beta 1, which was released a couple of weeks ago, and using the Upside Down Cake Preview Revision 3, which is equivalent of Beta 1, but on the emulator. And obviously, I had to use Android Studio Giraffe, which is in Canary right now. Oh, wait, it went to Beta 1 today, which is great. So yeah, you need these 3 at the minimum to try out any of the features I'm talking about. First one is Screenshot Detection API. So bear with me while I read my speaker notes. And I'll be switching to a live demo and then coming back here, so there will be some technical issues. Some of the OEMs have had screenshot detection for a while, but now it's a first-party Android thing. And they call it a privacy-preserving feature. I don't know how they preserve privacy with it, but then obviously, if you're taking a screenshot, you get a notification about it. You can obviously block screenshots from being taken. That's been a flag for quite some time now. And it's a callback at an activity level. So you obviously have to define this new permission. It's not a runtime permission. You just put it in the manifest, and it starts working. And then there are 2 ways with which you can actually detect screenshots. You can take the interface. It's called activity.screen capture callback, implemented in your activity. Or you can make an object for it and register it. I'm going to do the demo now. Switch to demo. Where is it? It's there, of course. OK. Right, so that's the permission I was talking about. And then at an activity level, screenshot activity. So I've gone this route. I've just implemented the interface on the activity. And then on start and on stop. This is the recommended way in the documentation. So you just register the callback on the main executor, and then on stop, you unregister it. And then I'll just quickly show you what's happening here. What I've done here in this application is that every time you take a screenshot, the count goes up. And at the 4th count, it shows you a meme. Let's see how many of you actually get the meme. Now, this only works with the screenshot physical hardware thingy, the power button and lower volume button. It won't work with any other implementation as of now. So I have to send that through ADB shell. Nope, key went 120. OK, so that simulates the screenshot hardware thing. There you go. So that's the prompt you get after taking a screenshot. The lower half, the top one is me. If I take another one, just count goes up because I'm taking a screenshot. And then finally, that's the meme. So yeah, all these screenshots get saved in your picture gallery, of course. And then you get this nice little pop-up at the bottom that your app has detected this screenshot. OK. Moving to the next API. Selected photo access. You might have seen that in Android 13, they came up with these 2 new permissions: read media pictures, read media images, and read media videos. This implementation goes one step above that, and similar to iOS, it gives the user the option to select what media actually the app has access to. So it's a new runtime permission called read media visual user selected. And once you have that implemented and requested and granted, you see a dialog something like this. So it says select photos. And with the beta now out, if you request this permission for the second time, it gives you the option of actually allowing you to select more photos, so increasing the scope of the media that's already allowed, or just plain not allowing anything, or allowing everything. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this as well. Right, so that's on the compose side. Okay. So if you've used the activity result contract for photo picker, it would look something like this. And you don't have to declare any permissions. This new one looks very similar. Oh, wait, I need to clear up permissions and everything. Just a sec. That's a bug in Android Studio, though. It's asking me to connect the debugger. Anywho, permission dialog, so come on. I'll just uninstall the app and run it again. There you go. So you've got the permission to select photos. Click that, got all the screenshots. Obviously, I've been testing a lot. And then some of the sample images I had downloaded. So let's select these two for now and just allow to. I can see them here. Nice. And then if I launch the permission again, it shows me the option of selecting more photos. Don't select more photos or allow all photos to be seen. When you do this, the read media images permission actually gets granted. Right now, it's not granted. It's a temporary access because of the new permission. So yeah, I'll go ahead and select some more. And then they all just show up over here. Nice and easy. Some more refinement towards what can be accessed by the app and what cannot. OK, I'm going to move to the next one. You might have seen this one popping around in Android 13 a lot. A lot of people were talking about it. But with Android 14, this gets a more stable release, a more prominent presence in the Android ecosystem. The stable Android 14 is expected to have just working this out of the box as long as your app says, yep, I want to use that. And you don't have to go to developer settings to enable it anymore. Well, you do have to right now, but probably not in the stable. What this does is it shows you a preview of the previous page that you're navigating to. So it could be the home screen. It could be the previous screen, as long as you're doing the back gesture. And then the user can make a decision of whether they want to actually go back and navigate and just stay on the current page. Again, you have to do this little thing. You have to add this line in your Android manifests application tag. And this way, it always invokes the predictive behavior. And right now, if you're still testing on Android beta, you have to go to developer settings and enable this as a preview. So to demonstrate, back just a preview. OK, so this only works at a fragment and activity level. It won't. It for me is not working with the compose navigation. So this screen is actually an activity. And if I do a back gesture, it shows me the previous one, but I can just choose not to have that. There you go. But selected photo access is just a compose screen. It's not a new activity. So if I go back, come on, go back. Yeah, it won't do the animation. I'm not sure if I'm missing something or interpreting the docs incorrectly, but this is how it is right now. Screenshot detection API was another activity, so I can go back. And this is another activity. So I can go back, and it shows me that my next screen is going to be the launcher screen. That's pretty much it for this demo. Going one step forward, and this is probably the biggest API change in Android 14 I've encountered so far. You know how a lot of languages have grammatical inflections in various words, nouns, just language in general. For example, French and Spanish. So this API allows your app to be more inclusive that way, better localization, so that you don't have to mess around with getting the locale, figuring out whether the user is, well, you still have to figure out whether the user's gender is male, female, or whatever, but you don't have to manage things, you don't have to refactor things just because you want to change an inflection. Android is making it easier now. They've added a new system service called Grammatical Inflection Manager. Just as any other system service, you would get it via the context. And then you have 4 options or 4 results. These are all integers, by the way, but these are the 4 things that you can get back when you request or set, or you can use these to set the inflection for your app. And now, neutral is when the user decides they do not conform to the biological male or female gender, or when the word doesn't really have a biological male or female variant. Feminine and masculine are pretty self-explanatory, and gender not specified is when you haven't used this API, but you still request it. So, or you can set that as well. So the app will behave as if no gender is set. And moving forward, these are the 2 callbacks that you get on the system service. Not callbacks, sorry, functions that you get on system service. This note over here is verbatim from the Google Android docs. Whenever you request a new inflection or set a new inflection, the activity will restart. So it's a config change. If you declare it in the manifest, you will get a config change lifecycle callback. Or if you don't declare it, your activity will actually refresh. So that's ultimately, obviously, your choice, but they have to let you know. For my test here, I'm going to show you in a quick minute. This is how I've set up buckets. So this is the required practice. So you've got your res and values folder, and then whatever resources inside it. And then for languages, you normally have value dash the language tag, the ISO tag. Goes one step further with neuter, masculine, and feminine. And then you've got other things in French and Spanish as well. So yeah, I've got various versions of these strings here now. As with other string resources, you still have the same ID, but obviously different actual value in there. To show you a quick demo, and I can switch languages in here now. That's thanks to per app language preferences that came with Android 13. So if I switch to French, the neutral word and sentence is this. I can switch to masculine or feminine. Again, this is just a demo to show how it works. Of course, there's no context to it. There's no use case to it right now. This goes in Spanish. Now, I don't know if it's correct or not because I just use Google Translate. I'm not very well versed with either of these languages. And same goes for English. All right. Next up, custom actions in intent chooser. This is actually very new. This just came out in beta. Yeah, this API support came out in beta. So you see how share actions have different implementations across different apps, and Google is tired of seeing these weird implementation. You can see Google itself has its own different variations across 5 different apps. So they're trying to fix this. They want to make it more consistent, right? So first start is to offer custom actions when you're using an intent chooser. So if you're creating a chooser via this intent.chooser API, you can add custom actions for your app. The custom action follows a builder pattern, which can accept an icon, a string for a label, and a pending intent, so that you can define what intent gets fired when you click on that. And it can take multiple of those, so it expects an array of custom actions. So once you've created your intent through create chooser, just add this extra after creating your custom chooser actions, and you'll be good to go from there. Quick demo of this one. Custom actions should be here. Chooser. There you go. I'm going to minimize this for a second. OK. So I've got an intent chooser here. It's just, again, for demo purposes. So I'm just going to call it share an image, but I don't really have an image to share. And then I've got one custom action here, which has got the Android logo to it, an Android 14 tag for the app name, and then a pending intent, which does a web search with the query string Android 14. And then once that intent, this build is for custom action because it's a builder pattern. And then this is the intent which I get from this intent chooser. So it's in this apply scope. And then I put this extra and then just start the activity. OK, don't really have an image to share, just a button for demo purposes. This is the new action that I've created. The APIs did exist in Android, in display developer preview 2, but they weren't working properly. So they fixed that and released it properly in beta. And then the nearby and copy actions have been added so that it's more consistent with what's available in production today. And when I click this, the pending intent gets fired. It goes to Google search or your default search provider, and then does a Google search for me. So hopefully more apps adopt this, plug in their custom actions there. It's also got these smarts where if you've got app shortcuts and you declare the MIME type for that shortcut, this intent chooser will automatically show those so that it's a bit faster and you don't really have to create actions every time. OK, I'm going to move to the last one now, and it's regional preferences. So what's happened now is there's a new screen in the settings app. If you go to settings, languages, and input, you can now define regional preferences for your device, overriding what is default for your location and your locale. So for example, you're traveling to the US, and you all know US predominantly shows temperatures in Fahrenheit, but we're used to Celsius here. So you can be there, change the fact that even though I am in US, I would still like to see things in Celsius. And then your weather app, if it supports this new API, it'll continue showing you things in Celsius, even though the locale for that region says it should be Fahrenheit. So you can override, you can set new things. Things like first day of the week, temperature units, and number preferences are supported right now. At this point of time, though, there's no way to get what the number preference value has been set. And this is all available through Android Xcore library in alpha 1.12.alpha 0. These are the 4 functions that you get out of that library. So you can get calendar type, so it's going to tell you it's Gregorian or whatever different regions use. You get the first day of the week, so you can choose any of those. So in the Middle East, I've been told that weekend starts on a Friday and ends on a Saturday, so the week actually starts on a Sunday. So you can obviously change that if you need to. I'll just do a quick demo then. OK. Regional preferences. So this is what's set by the API, set across the app right now. I'll have to do a quick reset of my language preferences that I changed earlier. I'll have to select system default so that I can override it from a system level and then get it over here. Otherwise, it's just going to take what I've set within the app. And that changed because I was doing the grammatical inflection demo. So if you go to system, language and input, regional preferences. So this is the screen I'm talking about. I've set it to Fahrenheit right now, and first day of the week is Wednesday. Now if I go back to the demo app, it did not, oh yeah, it did update. There's a small typo here. So it's following this particular standard. I'm forgetting the name of it, but that standard basically tells how human languages are presented in a digital form. And the code for Wednesday over there is just WED. And obviously, I did not read the documentation properly, and I just appended day at the end of it, because for Monday it was showing Mon. I just appended day and started working. Unit testing, should have done that. Anyway, so the calendar type is now Gregorian. Wednesday is the first day of the week now. Our cycle is H12, which is 1 to 12. There are 4 types of our cycles: 0 to 11, 1 to 12, 0 to 23, and 1 to 24. H12 refers to 1 to 12. And then temperature unit is Fahrenheit, which is again the code for Fahrenheit. And this is a universally accepted way. So, of course, you get an integer out of it, and you can use it the way you want to in the app. Now, if I go and change this, let's say on Thursday to be my new start of the week, there you go, it's just changed. As it recomposed, it updated the value. I guess that's it for this demo now. All right, these are the 6 API I wanted to talk about: the screenshot detection API, selected photo access, back gesture preview, grammatical inflection API, custom actions, and regional preferences. I've built a demo app. This demo app is available on GitHub, so that first QR points to GitHub. I've written a 2-part article. First part is already live, which talks about these APIs. The second one is undergoing review and stuff from my friends. So that points to this article itself. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I'll take questions now. Questions. No questions. Oh, question. Thank you.
So Snapchat already has that screenshot detection API. Sorry.
I'm guessing the mic's not on.
Better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So apps like Snapchat already have screenshot detection. Is the user case similar for this Android 14 thing, or because why would a user want to know that they have taken the screenshot?
That's a very good question, and I do not have an answer for that. I'm sorry. Like, I do not see how this is privacy preserving.
Yeah.
Screenshot is still happening, right? It's just a callback that screenshot has been taken. Now, it doesn't even return you the URI or the actual binary of that PNG. It just tells you the screenshot has been taken. So at this point, I do not know what a good use case for this could be, or rather, I can't think of one. Maybe it's useful for Snapchat and Instagram and everything to tell the other person that, oh, somebody has taken a screenshot of your story. So there's a more consistent way across all OEMs. They have to obviously implement their own ways right now. So maybe that's the target. I'm not too sure. But yeah, thanks for the question.
Here is a prize for the question. Actually, 3 prizes. Just take these 3.
Okay, any
Just
other questions?
encouraging people to ask questions.
Here we go.
Question? All right, any more questions? I have one question. How often Android releasing new version?
Every
What's
year.
the cycle?
It's every year now.
So once the new version released, what's the lifetime for that? Is it a long-term support period and active development period? Is there any specific terms for that?
There's no LTS. There's no terminology as LTS as such. It all boils down to the security updates that OEM provides. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in Android updates. They release a new Android every year now. They used to do point versions. Now they're just upgrading the major version. There isn't a lot of difference between major versions these days, at least not in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest change was Android 11 to 12. 12 to 13 and 13 to 14 seem more like 12.1 and 12.2. That being said, they enforce target Android for developers. So at this point, if you're uploading an update to your app or putting a new app on Play Store, it should target Android 12 right now. Starting August, it should target Android 13. So I'm guessing maybe in a 6-month time or a year's time, they would ask us to upload the app targeting Android 14. And That's all I know about it right
What
now.
is the lowest Android version which supported officially by Google?
It's, huh? You did say something. Go ahead.
Thinking out loud.
Okay.
Does Nexus still get security updates?
No, not at all. My Pixel 3a doesn't get security updates.
How was that? That's what?
4
Right, these
years.
guys
4
want
years.
some swag.
I can only talk about what Google Play allows. I don't know about other app stores or what Google's own opinion is. Google Play accepts Android 21 as the lowest right now. It's going to be Android 23 in August. Like your app cannot have minimum SDK less than 23 starting August. So Google Play will just outright refuse an update if the minimum is lower than 23. 23 would be Android 6.
So
Android
it's
6.
very risky to walk around streets with Android version 5.
Yes and no. Like they've decoupled a lot of things into these Jetpack libraries now, so which are backported. Some of them are backported all the way to Android 14, which is great. And so you get the same features across all Androids, but then obviously it's tricky to do it for security things because that's part of the build itself and could be part of the kernel. So yeah,
All right,
it is
awesome.
what it is. Thank you.
Okay, if there is no question, then
There's a question
one
there.
question.
Hey, hi.
Hey.
So I have one question. So it is not regarding what presentation has to do. So basically, Jetpack Compose is here, and a lot of developers are still using XML. I'm just wondering, like, is there any thing which is related to Android trying to replace XML wholly? Let's say there is Android 16 in future coming, saying like, if you don't write code in Jetpack Compose, you no longer the application will be in the Play Store.
I honestly haven't seen anything like this. Obviously, they want to make Jetpack Compose more common, so they've been working towards it. But they've been getting the same features for view-based stuff as well. Like I've built this demo app completely using Compose, no views at all, and you can do the exact same thing using views.
Agreed.
So yeah, Jetpack Compose at this point is not a replacement for how you build apps. It's just another opinion on how you build UIs and how you handle coroutines. If you build using Compose, it feels a lot more, at least to me, it feels a lot more simplified, and it looks like a functional programming language a lot. But then I don't see a reason why they would go ahead and be like, views are done, this is goes Jetpack Compose. And yeah, like if your app is already fully into Vue, stick to it. I don't see why you would want to spend an engineering effort in changing everything to Jetpack Compose when everything is working fine.
Yeah, because they have this separate documentation on a code lab saying like migration to Compose. They say like start with simple and try to replace everything.
Yeah, a lot of companies have very good reason to jump to Compose. I can't think of any, honestly. If you're starting a new project, just trying something out, go for Compose. It's a great way to learn Compose. It seems very difficult at start, but once you start getting a headway, it's easy. But I don't see why you would just go take Vue altogether, throw it out, and put Compose in.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks for great
There's a
question.
question
This is your reward. Any more questions? Or is one here?
What can we expect of Android 15?
I honestly don't know what I can expect of 14 at this point, except these things. So I honestly do not know how to answer that. 15 is a bit too far. If I was working in Google, I would have an answer for you, maybe, depending on my NDA.
All right. Yeah, I know there's here's one more. Probably the last one.
Probably the last
and then,
one, yeah.
guys, if you want to speak to Kartik, you can do it offline.
Thank you for the talk. I was curious about the grammar inflection correction feature.
Yep.
So in the demo, the languages that you showed, like Spanish and French, they have, like the alphabets are similar to English, right?
Yeah.
How does it work for other languages which have entirely different, I guess, a different paradigm of in terms of the semantics and grammar structure? Like, let's say Arabic or Hindi, or
exactly.
Japanese, and also in terms of like changing the meaning for. You mentioned the feature of gender neutral, how sentences are changed. How is that? How can you ensure that the meaning is still intact after applying the feature? Because sometimes the meaning, there might be some ambiguity in the final result, right? Is that somewhat indicated with like maybe a parenthesis?
Yeah.
And I guess, does it explain the intended meaning? Hope that makes sense.
Right. Thanks for the question. It's a long question. I'm going to explain it in parts. So the first part is, how do you deal with non-English scripts? Like, you've got so many other scripts which do not use the English characters at all. I haven't tried personally, but I believe Android Studio supports Unicode. So if their scripts exist in digital format, in some form of Unicode, it'll work. Android supports Unicode. We already know it supports so many non-Latin alphabet languages, so it should work. It's just a matter of how you actually put the buckets of your values, of your resources. There's language codes, the ISO standard for all languages out there, all known languages rather. So instead of French or Spanish, you can specify the code for the language you're trying to build the app for. And Android 14 would be smart enough to pick it up when the device language is set to that. Or if you go per app language preferences, if the user changes the language for that app to the language you want to support, the Android Studio will pick it up. Coming to second part of your question, how do you make sure it's correct, or how do you deal with nuances of the language? Again, you would obviously need some language expert to make sure that your copies are correct. And I wouldn't rely on Google Translate solely. I would probably, if it's an open source app, I would go ahead and do a crowdsourced language translation thing. There's so many services available which help you do it for free. And then you just put the strings in with the right ID in the relevant bucket, and again, it should work. The third question, what was the third question, sorry? Or was it just these two?
Just these two.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, awesome, guys. Thank you for great questions. You can speak.